So how do we create a purchase order in SAP? This can be done via transaction code ME21N. Over here you can see we got first of all so-called header details. So those details are relevant for the whole purchase order. And then we got line item details over here. Those details are based individually on the materials or services we procure. Let's actually start with the header section. So you can see a drop-down menu over here. This is to define the document type of the purchase order. So purchase orders are created with regard to a document type. The document type itself is defined in customizing and will decide about the number that is generated by the system and once we save the purchase order, and also, amongst others, which fields in the purchase order are mandatory, optional, or even hidden. So this is the standard document type used for purchase orders, and it is pre-shipped by SAP. It is called NB. So in this case, we will leave it as is. Then we need to insert a supplier from whom we procure the material or service. Over here you can see the document date. It will be set to the date when I'm creating this purchase order, but I could also change the date over here. Then you can see the system automatically jump to the so-called organizational data, because we always create a purchase order with reference to a purchase organization, a purchasing group, and the company code to clearly identify the purchase order. So let me just insert here values. And then we also got some other header text which are relevant for the whole purchase order. Let's go from left to right and I will show you some important parameters. So here we got the delivery invoice tab. There you can see the payment terms. Those are really important because based on the payment terms, possible discounts are calculated. You can see that the payment terms were inserted automatically. This is because, in my case here, they stem from the supplier master data. So in the supplier master data, we can store the payment terms and then they will be filled automatically over here. Here you can also see a button called GR message. If we hit this check mark and we did the proper customizing, each and every time we post the so-called goods receipt for our purchase order, so when we receive the goods and post this into the system, then a message will be issued to the vendor informing him that the goods receipt has been done. Also over here you can see the currency, and this currency is actually adapted by the line items. So we can see here the header currency, and this now counts for all of the line items. When we insert later on net prices, they will be in the currency euro, for instance. Then we have the conditions tab. Here we can see actually how prices are calculated. But this is something that will be filled only if we include our line items in a couple of seconds. Then we have a text tab over here where we are able to include, for instance, header texts. So particular information for this purchase order. We have an address tab where we see the address details of our vendor from whom we are going to purchase. A communications tab where we can include some more reference information. A partners tab. This is standard and comes from the vendor master record. So in this case, we have here the partner function vendor. So our vendor here was taken over, so to say. Then we have additional data, but this is a more advanced topic. The organizational data we have already seen. The status. Right now, we did not send any print documents, nor did we do a delivery, or we have also not invoiced a purchase order yet. Yeah, and that's basically it for the header data. Now let's actually include an item over here. This is for the item that we are going to purchase. In our case, we included the item number. In my case, this is a book. For sure, the material master must exist before we can do so. Then we can add a short text, but this is optional for a normal material. And then you could include here more information like the PO quantity, the order unit, and so on. But normally this is done automatically. So for this material, we created a purchase info record and information is pulled from there. If you haven't seen my video about purchasing info records, I will list it in the description of this video. So I will hit enter on my keyboard. You can see already a couple of information was filled automatically. I will include now my plant, hit enter again, and we can see basically most of the information already filled automatically out of either the material master record or the purchase info record. I just need to include my quantity over here. Let's say I want to buy 5 books and the storage location where I want to store those books physically. And then the system asks me whether the delivery date can be met. This is because right now the delivery date was set to the document date or our entry date. But let's say it takes a couple of days for this to be delivered. So let me set it to the 22nd and this should be fine. We can now include more lines and build them from scratch, or we can also click on this line over here and then click on copy item, and the item has been copied, as you can see. We can mark one item, and then you can see over here detailed information for that item. Let's start actually with the material data. Here we can see the material group for this material. So materials are always grouped in so-called material groups, and some other information. Important here is the indicator info update, because let's assume normally our prices are stored in the purchasing info records, but let's assume during the creation of the purchase order, I would change the net price to 6, like that. You can see effective price, material price is €5, but this is fine. And if we hit here info update, then our purchase info record will be updated with the new price, because we always want our purchasing info record to store the actual prices. And here the rule is, if only one purchasing info record exists for our material, then this purchasing info record is updated. And if 2 info records exist, that is one info record with a plant and one without a plant, then the info record with the plant will be updated. Then we got a quantity in weights, but this is nothing new, so we inserted a quantity of 5 over here, and this is adopted. If needed, we could include more information like the net weight and gross weight and so on, or also over here do a conversion. Then we got the delivery schedule tab over here. This is used if the total quantity we ordered is to be split over a certain period according to a prearranged schedule. Then we got the delivery tab, where we can state, for instance, if we allow over deliveries or under deliveries. So let's imagine we ordered 6 units and 8 are delivered, or 4 are delivered, and how to deal with that. Then the stock type, so where the material is actually posted to and doing the goods received. This is the unrestricted stock, or if this good we receive, so the books in this case, should first be inspected, then we can click here the quality inspection, or we can even post them to the blocked stock. So from this stock, we can't just issue the books later on. Then over here, we can also include the planned delivery time. So how many days it takes the vendor normally to deliver this good. And quite important, the goods received indicator, so that we expect a goods received for this material. Then we got the GR non-valuated indicator. This specifies that the goods received for this item is not to be valuated. So in this case, the valuation of the purchase order would take place at the time of the invoice verification. Then we have here the delivery complete indicator. This is basically also used for the delivery schedule. Let's imagine that over a period of time, we wanted 50 pieces or 50 books to be delivered, and then they are delivered. So we can click this button and say that way that the system should not expect any more quantity for this particular line item. Then we got the invoice tab. Over here, we say that an invoice is necessary for this purchase order because we have to pay them in the end. Here we could include that the last invoice from a vendor has been received already and that no further invoice is expected. And then, quite important, we have the goods received based invoice verification indicator over here, specifying the assignment of incoming deliveries and invoices to an item of a purchase order. So if we hit this indicator over here, an invoice for the order item can be entered with reference to a goods received document or even a delivery note number. So in that way, a separate invoice item will be created for each goods received. Let me maybe give you a small example. So let's imagine we have our purchase order with a total of 100 books. And then those books are delivered, not in one delivery, but in 3 deliveries. With the first delivery, 40 books are delivered, with the second 30, and with the third also 30. When we set this indicator over here, the system will suggest 3 line items separately for the 3 deliveries, so that when creating the invoice, we can actually match the invoice with the deliveries. I hope this makes it clear, but I will make a separate video about this. Then we have the conditions tab. So here you can see again the pricing conditions for this particular item we purchase, including a gross price, cash discounts, and so on. Also customs and duties would be included over here. Then we have texts, so we can actually include also texts here on the item level, the delivery address, so where we want the goods to be delivered to. In our case, this is plant 0001. We got the confirmations tab. This is used to update information after we send our purchase order to the vendor. So we could say, for instance, that an inbound delivery is expected for the purchase order. Then we got conditions control, where we can actually state the price determination date control. So this would determine which date is to be used for the price determination. So for instance, if we choose over here the goods received date, then a new price would be determined upon the arrival of the books, which would cause the item to be revaluated at this particular time when the goods arrive. Print price would actually determine whether or not the prices for the line items are to be included when we print the purchase order, and estimated price over here can be set if we do not know the exact net price of the material. And in a consequence, a greater price variance would be tolerated during the actual invoice verification process than it would be the case if we not select this indicator over here and use the exact price. Yeah, and this is it. Maybe just one or two more quick remarks. We can always park or hold the document over here. The difference here is that when we click on hold, this is to hold the document before it's actually posted to the system. So we can then later edit it and then actually post it to the system. But if we use the park button over here, then the document will be posted to the system. However, before the document is finally released, for instance, approvals are needed. Despite that, you also got always the check indicator over here to check your purchase order for errors. You can have a check on the print preview, and even a message determination, but those are some more advanced topics. And over here, we can also include an attachment via create attachment. Yeah, and that's it. All we now need to do is click on save and the purchase order is created. You can see the number has been issued and we can use this purchase order further. Thanks a lot for watching this video till the end. I hope you gained good knowledge of the process, and if so, please subscribe to my channel and activate the bell. See you next time.